welcome to Sheffield United. I'll start with how well have you settled in?
No, it's been brilliant, to be honest. It's been extremely receptive. Obviously came over to, I've sort of been in and around for the last sort of couple of weeks just while we've been agreeing stuff and going over the role and everything. So I've met quite a lot of the people behind the scenes and seen how many people there are at the club. And then Monday night I was over here with Tony and Ernie, and then I watched the under-23s game and met a few more people. And then last night I was over with the youth section, and again tonight with the 23s and obviously some more of the youth. So it's been an interesting few days, but yeah, been really, really good.
Some of the people looking in might think, director of football, is that just solely first team related, or is it something else?
No, so to be honest, it's going to be quite a vast role. So when Ernie first approached me, he spoke to me about a sort of director of football role as well as a head of recruitment, but we've kind of just dovetailed it all into one title. So in terms of the first team stuff, it will be working alongside obviously Ernie and Jeff and the rest of you guys as staff. In terms of recruitment, looking at players, obviously I know the level extremely well, looking at opposition analysis, looking at bringing in obviously the data that we can get from the vests, etc., that we've got ourselves, the video footage, looking at analysing the games and obviously getting that into the players so that we can just have a little bit more detail and a little bit more information, hopefully just giving us that little extra percentage and just bringing that a little bit more, like I say, a little bit more information, a little bit more professionalism to it, and just adding to what is obviously already going on into a team that's obviously doing really well. So just adding a little bit more value in that sense. But a big crux of my role will be really creating a pathway for the kids within the youth section in terms of getting them through into the first team and really opening those doors and making sure that we're making the best use of all of our children that are sort of in the elite section of the club. And then on top of that is growing the community-based stuff in terms of children that just want to play sport, because I think it's really important that we understand the values of the football club, and it is a club for the community. If you look at the sort of mission statement, it's a club for the community, from the community. So I think that's really important that we get the message out there nice and clear, that we've got programmes running already, like the Monday nights, which is football for all, from 7 to 12-year-olds, and then obviously we've got the teams already here, and we'll be looking at growing those teams for next year, and obviously moving forward, obviously years after that as well. So it's quite vast. I'm looking forward to getting on the grass with some of the youth teams. I'll be looking at, again, I had a real good conversation with Gary, the head of the youth, yesterday, and working alongside himself and the coaches. And again, just adding to, there's some fantastic stuff here last night. There's some really good young players and some really good coaching going on. And again, it's just adding some input into that, adding some value to that, and sort of just trying to enhance that in certain areas that the whole club feels that we need to, and that'll be conversations and relationships that I build over the next sort of few weeks and months leading to the end of the season. So there's some other additional projects that we're going to be looking to do, but certainly between now and the end of the season it'll be working alongside Ernie, and really then with the youth section is starting to put in place profiling what a Sheffield United player looks like, how we get them through into the first team, what that coaching looks like and what that journey looks like, and then obviously making sure that it really is a hub for the community to come and spend their time at weekends and during the week. We want to obviously maximise the usage of the pitch and obviously the bar areas, etc, because there will be people on the island that haven't been here, so we need to make sure that they're coming through the doors and coming through the gates and get that engagement with the first team. We want to make sure that these kids in the youth section know me, know the senior management team and certainly the senior players, so that we can, like I say, bring it all together. So it's an exciting role.
You bring obviously a wealth of experience with you, having been at various levels in the football spectrum. Do you think that's one of the reasons Ernie's brought you here?
Yeah, I think so. Look, obviously, I've had a decent relationship with Ernie over the last few years. I speak to a lot of managers and coaches at the level, and we've discussed players. Obviously, James Taylor came over here when me and Ernie had spoken earlier in the summer or in the season, and certain things were changing here from Belvedere. So he actually called me about another player and ended up me talking to him about taking James, which was great. And he's come in and done well, got a couple of winning goals, and he's a great lad and a good player. Yeah, I think he wants me to come in. Obviously, like I say, look, I've got experience at the level and above. Obviously, experience in terms of coaching, but also in terms of growing football clubs and the stuff in and around a football club, which then enhances the first team, because ultimately the product on the pitch with the first team is vitally important in terms of the brand of football. And certainly we need to try and get these young players in. There is some really good young players at the club right away through the age groups, including the 23s, and we need to make sure that and I've done that in the past, right, again at every club. I've had young teams and lots of young players have come through. I mean, I was looking at it yesterday. I mean, I'm talking 20 years ago. I had people like Danny Nichols, Craig Owls, James Tedder coming through from my youth team, making debuts at Dartford, and then the likes of Richard Avery and Brad Potter, Jay May, and that's going back long before people are talking about bringing players through now. And then I had Chris Haig and Travis Gregory, Greg Cundall, Will Hall, Charlie Harris, all at East Grinstead, and obviously the likes of Ben Wilson, Alfie May, Ryan Johnson, Adam Marsh. That the names, like I say, I was actually just looking at it from my own personal sense yesterday. So I think I've been doing this a long time. So I think that's why Ernie and obviously then Jeff and Tony have looked at that and just thought, look, there's somebody out of work could potentially bring in some additional value to the football club, and that, like I say, that's hopefully what I'm going to be able to do.
So obviously we was in opposite dugouts 6-7 weeks ago. What would you make of the current first team squad?
I think it's exciting. I think there's a good blend of some senior players with experience, the likes of Richie Hamill, obviously Danny Leonard. That I had him at East Grinstead on loan from Gillingham back in the day. And there's some really exciting young players. James Bessie Saldana, I actually tried to sign in the summer. And Javon I worked with at Billericay last year when he came on loan from Worthing, who I think is an exciting talent. And yeah, like I say, look, there's the goalkeeper Aidan I've seen for a long time. So I think right across the board, I think the squad's strong. Obviously the lad Diallo's on his way back from injury, is a fantastic player. Young Frankie at fullback, who I watched in the last home game, I thought was fantastic against Surrey at Corinthians. So you could name, like I say, you could name them all. Obviously JT's come over here. So, but I do think there's a good mix. I think there's areas that obviously Ernie would like to strengthen. Obviously injuries have been a little bit paramount this year, which it's testament to the players that have carried on and sort of filled gaps and played in different positions to help the club. And the young lad that's coming at fullback, coming over from K Sports, has done great over the last couple of games. So it's I think it's a strong squad, and obviously look, the league table doesn't lie. And I think Ernie would like now and Jeff to try and strengthen in certain areas to try and give us a little kick on, and hopefully, obviously between us all, we can try and do that.
You helped Ernie out last week with the signing of Zach. What's Zach going to bring to the side? Yeah,
so I met him in the last few weeks at Era from Belvedere, and brought him in. He's got good pedigrees at Charlton. He's at Ebbsfleet. He's played at this level and the one above as well on loan. And a good footballer, good understanding of the game. Can pass it, gets around the pitch. He's a strong boy, and I think short and long term, he's a really good addition. Like I say, he's decent in the air. I think he carries most of the good attributes that midfield players need. He's a real good, honest lad as well. And I felt that knowing the group, and I know a lot of the boys here anyway from obviously playing against them and having worked with quite a few of them as well, I felt that off the pitch he would fit the group as well, which is important. And he couldn't believe it coming over and training with you guys last week. He just saw the level of the club and the size of it and what could be achieved here, and then obviously got thrown in at the deep end on Saturday against the best team in the league in front of 1,100 people. But as young players, that's what they want to be doing, and I think from somebody with his pedigree, I think he's got a real opportunity here. As this is the right club for players like Zach to come here and get their career where they want it to go. And I think, as I say, so far so good. But it's only one game. But I think his injury, I think it was a little bit of fatigue, having not played a lot of football. But I think, hopefully he looks like he's going to be all right for the weekend.
Still a lot of football to be played, so do you think the playoffs are definitely achievavable?
Yeah, I think it's achievable. It's a very competitive division, and I think if you look at the top two teams are kind of pulled away in Ramsgate and Cray Valley, but this it tends to be over the last 2 or 3 years you need to be hitting 63, 65 points to be getting into that final playoff space. And obviously we've played a couple of games more than some of the other teams, but there's some real competition in there. You've got obviously Three Bridges, who obviously we play Saturday, and then obviously the likes of Herne Bay. Hive have obviously now got games in hand galore, and they came from a similar position last year and ended up in the playoffs and nearly obviously went up. So it's competitive, but we're in the mix. And like I say, I think if we can get one or two additions to the group, particularly where we obviously got injuries in the back four, I think if we can do that, then we stand just as good a chance as anybody else. So it's certainly obtainable, but it's a tough division, and obviously it's only the second year in it for the football club. So the club's done brilliant to get to where it is already, and now hopefully, obviously the management team and obviously myself and the rest of the people at the club can try and move it forward.
One of the things you did touch on was data analysis, and that's something that we both share a passion for, clearly. And we've got Azri, we've got Tyler with, but is that something that you're going to try and implement across Sheffield United and not just the first?
Without a doubt, I think anything that we do, we need to make available and viable for certainly for the senior age groups of the club. And I've spoken to Ernie and Tony about that on Monday, because I think it's important that one, they understand it, because it takes some understanding. We need to see the value to what it brings. At the end of the day, the top clubs use it mostly in these divisions now, right the way through, and certainly obviously the football clubs in the Football League and the Premier League use it. So if they're using it, then there's obviously a reason behind that. You have to understand obviously the science behind it, but I saw a massive value to it last year at Billericay, a real value to it, and having that information. And we put the stuff together in terms of where we were winning games and how much running people were doing, etc., and the areas of the pitch that we were getting into. So I think with having the facility to it, I think yes, it's important at first team level, but certainly 23s, potentially reserves next year, under 18s and probably under 16s. I think it's important that if we haven't got the games being filmed by somebody, which obviously is a first team thing, we certainly need to look at the VO and then certainly the vests throughout those age groups. So yeah, I think it's important, and also you get more buy-in from the players and they start being accountable for what they're doing. And I think then once you get that, you get a better product from the players. And I think if you're trying to attract the right players, certainly lads coming out of professional clubs and coming out of the bigger non-league clubs in Kent, they're going to be used to that. So if they're used to that, they need to be coming into a similar environment for us to attract people. So I think it's important. We've got a fantastic facility here, and there are added bonuses that we need to be doing as a football club. And like I say, Tony and Ernie are fully behind that, which is great. We've
tried to do a few different things this year. So we done our very first press conference ahead of the FA Cup game against Walsall. Recently we done a supporters Q&A, open to all supporters. Is that the type of thing that you'd like to do, support engagement?
Without doubt, the supporters at the end of the day will be here probably beyond all of us, barring probably Ernie. But as I say, I think at the end of the day, if you look at the clubs at the top end of these leagues, and you look at the likes of Chatham as well in the league above, the fan base is absolutely vital to the progress of the football club. Obviously for obvious reasons, obviously revenue, etc. But if you look at the big clubs, even in the Premier League, the Man United's in the top, all these clubs with 60, 70, 80,000 people, that's how you grow the club, and you need a fan base. And I think that's one of the things that we need to make sure that we're doing is, you're not always going to get good feedback, but any feedback's important because you can learn from it. And I think all of us make mistakes, whether that be in the game, out of the game, off the pitch, on the pitch. And I think it's important that we kind of have that. I learned this from somebody that's in the game. I think I know what I know, and I want to know what you know. So it's important that I think we try and get that, because if we can get that, then we're going to learn. And if all of us are learning, we don't have all the answers, so we have to try and find the answers. And there might be some great ideas coming from the supporters. There's people, I'm sure, that are business owners, etc., and people have got kids, and they all sort of want something different from the club. So I think it's really important that we engage with them, and I think that's where if we can get some players through from the local community, they've got to be good enough. And obviously the levels, if we carry on going through the divisions, the level goes up in terms of the type of kids that need to get into the senior team. But I think once you get that, you'll get even more engagement from the local community, because they've actually got people that they can obviously aspire to, and then you've got the kids coming through that they probably went to school with someone's brother, or etc. So I think it's really important. I thought it was great that you guys have already done it, and there's some fantastic initiatives already running. Like I say, Tony's done a great job, having spoken to him and Ernie at length since he's come in and added value, and obviously Ernie's done brilliant in terms of getting the football club to where it is now. So I think they're really gearing the club for the future and adding people and personalities and certain different aspects of the club to keep it growing and moving forward. and that's like I say, that's testament to them.
And then finally, one I always like to end on. Have you got a message for the supporters?
Yeah, look, it's, for me, like, I'm coming into their club, so for me, I'm delighted to be here. I'm hoping that I can add some value to the football club, and hoping that I can help take it forward. And I'm looking forward to seeing everyone Saturday. So obviously, I can come if people have got any questions. They're more than welcome to come and ask me face to face. Yeah, like I say, I'll be at as many games as I can be. But obviously, I'm going to be watching some of the opposition as well to assist with Ernie and Jeff. But yeah, like I say, the main thing is like, I'm delighted to be here, and I'm pleased to be part of their football club, because that's what it is. And they're the most important people here, because they're going to be here for as long as obviously they can be. So yeah, like I say, look, delighted to be here. Basically, that's the crux of the message to them, and hopefully get as many people as we can coming through these last 6-7 home games, and try and give us a real good push, because ultimately, if you're a player, you want support and you want noise, and this is a real great facility. It's a nice tight knit ground, and it's a local club filled by local people, and we want to make that known, and let's make it as noisy as we can for Saturday's game, which is a real important one.
Brilliant. Thanks, Matt.